Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Find Your X with Alex with two X's, where finding your place in this world just got a little easier. Today is a very special day because guess what? I have a guest with me who's going to discuss the aspects of love and fear and how these two emotions rule us and how these two emotions rule over us in this world. Sinead Darcy is an LA-based actor, singer, and writer with many projects in the works. She is also a voiceover artist with an inspiration and informational podcast on iHeartRadio called Girls Let's Talk. Sinead Darcy is a personal trainer and the owner of Aglow Athletics, with the mission statement, guiding others to become their best selves. Her most recent work has been starring as lead in the Lifetime movie, My Nightmare Landlord, and in the Super Bowl national commercial for Tide. Welcome, Sinead Darcy. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for having me here.
So I would love to know a bit more about your podcast and what your audience is and who you want to reach and get the word that you're trying to communicate to girls specifically, right?
Right.
So tell me more about that.
So when I started the podcast Girls Let's Talk, it was for girls, hence the name. But then as I started delving into different topics, I decided to I changed the image that I have for the podcast into just sort of a general looking person. And I write in my bio when you go on iHeartRadio for it that it's really open and welcome to all, because all the topics I talk about are really just topics that mainstream media might not cover and things like that. So it's very informational, but it's also inspiring. I talk a lot about just uplifting people. Love and fear is the topic of one of my podcasts, and I'm happy to be talking about that today.
Yes. And so how does that help you with your personal coaching that you do?
So I think really what led me to that was wanting to connect more with people on a one-on-one basis. You know, with the podcast, it's great. Anybody can tune in. But really the deeper work of mindset, which is what we talk about a lot personally, and all that inspiring stuff, that's what really made me want to go into personal training. But of course, I love the podcast because I get to inform as well. But I think more the mindset and the empowering things I talk about in the podcast, that's what led me to want to work one-on-one with people and really, make them become their best selves. Yeah.
Awesome. So good. I highly recommend that you guys go check out her podcast because it's just so much information that you don't want to miss out on.
Yeah.
So today we are talking and delving deep into the aspects of love and fear and how our whole world really surrounds these two different emotions.
Yeah.
And I find this to be so true for me and what I teach to others as well, is that you are always coming from a place of either love or fear. And I read a book called A Course in Miracles. And it's very holistic book, and it's some people would say it's a bit religious,
right,
and because it does talk about God, but it's so it's like a matter of fact type of book. It's just like, this is how it is.
Yeah.
And take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that book specifically says is that love and fear is, you're coming from a place of either love or fear. So like, if you're not forgiving someone, it's because you're fearful that they aren't going to, if you haven't forgiven someone lately, then it's because you are fearful. That's a fearful, emotion that
right,
you're emitting out there, which
right,
in turn will come back to you.
Yes. Yes.
And then on top of that, something else that the Course of Miracles says, which I absolutely love, is that in the metaphysical standpoint of it all, that love and fear can be related to light and darkness. And something that Marianne Williamson would always talk about in her books, and her book is A Return to Love, getting yourself out of a place of fear and returning back to love.
Right.
And what she talks about is the metaphor of, if you're in a dark room, you can light a single match and light that entire room.
Right.
And so if you're acting out of fear, it's a dark room, but a single match can change that whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's an act of love, really. So tell me your standpoint on what love and fear is, and what you recommend to get out of the fear mindset and back into the love.
Yes. I love what you said. I just started reading A Course in Miracles, and I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to finish it now that you've been talking about it. I mean, my belief is the same, that, everything is either coming from a place of love or a place of fear. And I think people might say, well, how do you know? How do you know if this is coming from a place of love or fear? And I think my answer to that is you feel it. If you ever, I always think of it when people say like, oh, I don't feel like myself. Something feels off. That's how you know. I say you're disconnected from love. I believe your true nature, your truest state is love, which is when you're connected to your highest self, your best self, or to God, to some people, right? So I think that, I totally agree. That's a beautiful analogy, that you light a match and then you can light up the whole room. What I practice if I feel that I'm disconnected from love and I'm feeling fearful, maybe in a negative spiral, right? I use the Choose Again method by Gabby Bernstein. She's written many books, one of which, Super Attractor, which is really amazing, where she talks about this. Okay. And really all it is you, like, for example, you are driving and you're in the car and there's traffic. And you're just like, God, when am I going to get there? Oh, now I'm late for work. Oh my God. Oh, I just got in an accident. Now my whole day is ruined.
Yeah.
Right.
And it just adds.
Right. And it just continues. And for some people, it continues that way for their whole lives. Yes. Right. And so I think, how do we get out of that place? What I would do in that situation of I'm in traffic, right? Recognizing first, which people don't talk about, is feel the feeling. Right. You can't just bypass a negative feeling and, put a happy sticker on your face, right? That's what I feel. Just put a smile on your face. That's not gonna create a genuine shift in your energy, right? Or in where you are. So what I would do is just feel that feeling of frustration and then choose a better feeling thought, right? Which would be, it's a beautiful day outside. Maybe I'll go to the beach later. It was so fun when I went to the beach with my friend last week. Oh my God, I'm gonna give her a call. You call her up while you're in traffic, and then you have a great conversation, and maybe she tells you something she's never told you before. That's the positive spiral. Exactly. So that's the decision we have to make every day. It's so true. And I've done a video on this before as well. And the phrase that I like to use is, this is good because. Yeah. And you begin to change your mindset in every situation, that, if I just, it's the same thing, like you're stuck in traffic, but I use like, oh, my tire just, went flat. My tire just blew out. And it's the same thing. This is good because I got to have a really long conversation with my friend that I haven't seen in so long. Yeah. And it's the same, it's the same thing that Find Your Ex is all about. Yes. It's about getting yourself back to a place of love. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. So what does love then mean to you? Yeah. I think love means something differently to everybody, right? But I think it just means, when you're feeling good, when you're feeling, when you're connected to that truest state. Like I was saying before, how you sometimes don't feel like yourself. I think that's how you know you're disconnected. But I guess love just means, serenity, peace. You should just be feeling like you're living with ease. That's really what love means to me. Yeah, and what do you think unconditional love would, and how that plays into the overall love aspect? Yeah, I think, any conditional love is not true love, I think, right? Because if you were to say, I love myself only when I get straight A's, or I love myself only when I look the best I look. You never will truly love yourself, right? There's always something to be critical over, right? Or there's always maybe something to be critical over of your friends or your family. And I think that unconditional love is just what we're talking about, which is seeing the love in every situation, seeing the love in every person, and deciding to look at life that way every day.
Right. And what unconditional really means too is like it's you take out the conditions.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I love you because that's the way it is. It's not just because I love you because I have to, because you're my sister. It's because I love you because that's all there is.
Right.
And that's unconditional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really great. I love that aspect of it. So another thing I would love to just bring up is that it's a breath in, breath out. And so when you say that you have to acknowledge your feeling of the fear, it's not saying that you won't ever come back to the love.
Right.
It's a constant up and down.
Yeah.
Love and fear, light and darkness, yin and yang. It's all this thing. You need both to balance it all out. You have to acknowledge both.
Yeah.
But you can get yourself out of a place of fear a bit quicker, which puts you at a higher vibration. So there's lows and lows, but you can come right back up and stay in the high a bit longer.
Yeah.
And the lows will be shorter, and that's a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
See how that all works?
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't
yes.
that so freaking cool?
It's amazing. Yeah.
One thing I would love to ask you is when was a time that you acted out of fear in your past and that you can acknowledge now and be like, if I were to change that into an act of love?
Definitely. I think that probably when even recently, up to recently, I have a lot of projects that I work on. I'm one of those people where I just got a new hat every day.
Me too.
Right?
Me too.
And so you can get to that place where you sometimes become that, what Gabby Bernstein refers to as the Manic Manifesto. Right? Like you have all these positive intentions, all these beautiful things you want to get done, and they may be all in service of other people, but when they're coming from a negative place, like frustration, right? Wanting to get it all done, maybe wanting to impress somebody, maybe wanting to, whatever it is, get a leg up in your career, whatever it is. Yeah. I think that, I was there where I had all of these things on one plate and I was trying to get them all done at once. And then I realized, hold on, a mantra came to me, and it was slow down and make joy the priority.
Right.
And once I started doing that, all of a sudden the inspiration started hitting me, and then it wasn't hard to get the things done that I wanted to get done. Whereas before it was just like constant, stress, trying to move on to the next thing, maybe missing a meal here and there, all of that, that's called, we're referring to as that negative spiral, right? Yeah. What I always say is a negative will never give you a positive. Okay, if you're coming from a place of negativity, you're not going to receive anything positive. So first, we have to feel that feeling, right? Feel that frustration. And that's basically what I practice now. If I see that I have a little bit too much on my plate for the day, I take a step back and I say, slow down. Let me make joy the priority. And that's when it really all starts to unfold beautifully and with ease.
Yeah, and it's all about the flow of everything. Yeah. It's either you're in the flow or you're out of the flow. And it's the frequency, the thing that I always go back to. It's either you're in that flow, you're doing the ups and downs, and you're acknowledging the downs so that you could go back to the ups.
Yes.
Because it's all going to be there in a lifetime. We have them all,
Yeah.
So that's great. I love that. And what would you recommend to someone who is in the low place and is just vibrating at that low level in the constant state of fear?
Right.
What would you recommend to get, maybe the first step to get them out of that?
Yeah, I would say basically what I did, which is every morning set the intention that joy is the priority, and then practice as things happen throughout the day, because they will. I think people have this, this misconception that, or this misperception that basically, that all these gurus you watch on TV, or these famous people, or these rich people, whatever life you want to have, that they're all just living it beautifully every day of their life. No, everybody has their own issues. Everybody gets disconnected. And I think the important thing to do is as things come up throughout the day. And as small as you think that they might be, even that small annoyance, that your mother called you, maybe she annoyed you slightly, recognizing them, again, feeling those feelings and moving through them, just reaching for a better feeling thought and speaking energetically, like we were talking before, just trying to go a little bit higher on that vibration scale, meaning if you seem like you're content, try to move up a little bit, try to see if you can, even if it's like a game on your phone, as simple as you think it is, something that can just bring you back to a better feeling thought, or even if you're frustrated, if you can get to contentment, if something can just bring you there, just reach for it, and then pretty soon you'll get there, right? It's not going to be immediately you're going to be feeling joy from a place of terror,
right.
But you can move up, and maybe it'll take, maybe you start the day and you're energetically down here, but then maybe you end the day and you're here, and that's a win.
Yeah. And to go back to the morning aspect, it does start there. It's a new day.
Absolutely.
And what I like to tell people is delete yesterday. Control, Alt, delete your past. Get rid of it.
Yes.
And live in the moment.
Yes.
And start anew. And it doesn't, it's not, you can't just automatically fix into a positive aspect of everyday thinking from a place of love.
Right.
Because so many of us grow up conditioned from a place of fear.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't pay the mortgage. Oh, my parents are divorced. Oh, we had to move 1,000 times. We all, have this wired brain to think in fear, which is fine. But what we are saying, and what I hear you say, is that you can change it into an aspect of love.
Yeah.
You can get yourself out of it, and it can start with a good morning routine.
Yeah.
And by deleting your past and by setting yourself up for a day of positivity.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I think a really important thing, which is really what you were getting at, is we got to stop telling ourselves this story that we don't want to identify with.
Right.
If you're telling yourself the story that, oh, I live in this small town and all I'm going to do is this and all my parents did was this, so that's all I'm going to do. Well, if you are telling yourself that story every day and you're identifying with that story in your actions and in your thoughts and in your words, then that will be your reality. However, we can create our own realities by changing the things we're saying, changing the things we're doing. And like you said, just cleaning yesterday's slate. Who cares if yesterday you didn't get your dream job? Guess what? Tomorrow there might be a new job that's waiting for you and you needed that door to close for another door to open. So stop telling yourself this story that's on replay. That's not even the story you want. Write a new story. Write your own story.
Amen. And I think that is such a good note to end on for everyone at Find Your Ex. Thank you so much for tuning in today and talking with me and Sinead Darcy. Now, as always, if you haven't already, please subscribe down below and press the bell notification, because you want to be one of the first people to see the next video that will be just like this one. Thank you so much for being here, Sinead, and I can't wait to check out your Girls Let's Talk on podcast.
Thank you. X marks the spot.
And you just got a little closer. Thank you. Bye.